First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai Ba'ashim Rakakudash. Yahweh is who this world ignorantly calls God. Yahushai is who this world ignorantly calls Jesus. Ba'ashim means in the name, Rakah means spirit, and Kodash means holy. And that's on the Paleo Hebrew. Also to give double honors to the elder bishops and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth. Today's video, I wanted to go into the parable of the 10 virgins, right, and go into its significance. So this is in Matthew chapter 25 and verse 1. It says, "Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. And 5 of them were wise, and 5 were foolish. They that were foolish took their lamps, and took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. While the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight there was a cry made, Behold, the bridegroom cometh. Go ye out to meet him. Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said unto the wise, Give us of your oil, for our lamps are gone out. But the wise answered, saying, Not so, lest there be not enough for us and you, but go ye rather to them that sell, and buy for yourselves. And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and they that were ready went in with him to the marriage, and the door was shut. Afterward came also the other virgins, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he answered and said, Verily I say unto you, I know you not. Watch therefore, for ye know neither the day nor the hour wherein the Son of Man cometh." Okay, so that is the parable of the 10 virgins. And, the significance of this, simply putting it, is that you constantly have to be trimming your lamps, right? The difference between the 5 wise and the 5 foolish is that the 5 foolish didn't take oil for their lamps, right? So when it was time to go, they didn't have oil. They weren't prepared. And the wise, they were constantly trimming their lamps. Okay, they were prepared. They were on point. So, Salakia, they're on point for when essentially the bridegroom being Yahweh shall return. So the lesson is preparation, right? Preparation and consistency. Being able to, self-examine, see where you're falling short, and make a new game plan to essentially continue. And this is something that, in order to do, takes accountability, takes humility, takes a humble spirit, and it's not for everyone. That's why the scriptures say that many are called, but few are chosen. Right? Many people get called. Many people hear the gospel, but those that are really going to endure into the end, it's not easy, because it's a constant battle every single day. So there's going to be a time where this word is not readily accessible. And in that time is when you're going to see that everyone all of a sudden wants to get it. But for majority of people, it's going to be too late. Like those 5 foolish virgins. Right when it was time to go, that door got shut. So let's read this in Psalms chapter 110 and verse 3. It says, Thy people shall be willing in the day of thy power, in the beauties of holiness from the womb of the morning. Thou hast the dew of thy youth. Right, so these Israelites, you Israelites, are going to be ready, okay, are going to be willing to seek the Lord when everything collapses in the day of his power. Because in that day, you're going to finally realize, what these men were saying, what the Bible says, is actually happening. And it's not going to be any more second guessing or doubting. It's going to be right in your face. But the answer to many of y'all is going to be Proverbs, the first chapter. Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 24 says, I'll start at verse 23. It says, Turn you at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you. I will make known my words unto you. Because I have called and ye refused. I have stretched out my hand, and no man regarded. We have set at naught all my counsel, and with none of my reproof. I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. When your fear cometh as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish cometh upon you, then shall they call upon me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me, for that they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of Yahweh. Okay, so the message is going out right now, and majority of people mock at it. They hate it. They don't want to get in line. They don't, Let's get that scripture. Because this is what's going on. Romans 10:3 says, "For they, being ignorant of God's righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves into the righteousness of God." Right? So they're trying to establish their own righteousness instead of submitting themselves to the righteousness of God. Right? You're trying to do your own thing. And guess what? That's not how this thing operates. You can't just be a wicked, adulterous, weed smoking, murderer, liar. You can't be that type of person and think you're going to make it. Okay, think you're going to be on the Lord's good side. Think that when all hell breaks loose, that you're going to be covered. Right, because that's what's coming down the pipeline, is all hell breaking loose. Okay, we already see it coming. We already see the tensions of war over there with Iran and the United States and the Strait of Hormuz. Right, we know how famines are prophesied, which is a lack of bread. And what is that situation, essentially controlling? It's controlling the bread of damn near the entire world, right? 30% of the oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz, and the oil was connected to everything, right? So eventually everything is going to go digital. They're going to come down with stricter lockdowns. War is going to intensify. Everything is going to intensify. We already see it. And your answer is not going to be trusting in the system. It's going to be trusting in Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. I'm actually jump just because that brought out a chapter to me that I haven't gone into in a while. I believe it's Isaiah chapter 30 and verse 1. It says, "Woe to the rebellious children, saith Yahweh, that take counsel, but not of me, and that cover with the covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin, that walk to go down into Egypt, and have not asked at my mouth, to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh, and to trust in the shadow of Egypt," which the Egypt that is talking about here is Babylon the Great. Okay, when you go into Revelation 11, it says that Babylon the Great is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. And if you understand prophecy, Babylon the Great in the Bible, in Revelation, is talking about America. Right, so America resembles Sodom and Egypt. So all you Israelites that walk down to go down into Egypt and have not asked at his mouth, right, you're going to strengthen yourself in this system. And the Lord hates that. He hates that you go towards your enemies instead of going towards him. So what's going to happen? "Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt your confusion." Right, so trusting in the system at the end of the day is going to be your shame, because you're going to realize that this system is not out here to benefit you. Okay, everything that they tell you, the so-called goodies, the universal basic income, they're going to essentially say that, "Oh, we'll give you $4,000 a month for just being part of this digital system, and all you got to do is just put this little chip inside of your hand, and you're going to be okay, and you're going to be more protected, and there's going to be less theft and less crime." However they slice it, it's not going to be for your benefit, right? Because at the end of the day, that is a system to enslave you, right? Go look at China with the social credit system and what they're doing. How you can't go into certain gyms, you can't go into certain restaurants, certain rides, if you don't got a good enough social credit score. So that is what's coming over here. And it's just a matter of time. So trusting in the system will be your shame and your confusion, because it's going to leave you in a more confused state than what you began with. So let's go now to Isaiah 19. Staying on this topic, Spirit drifted me somewhere else. Isaiah 19 and verse 2, it says, "And I will set the Egyptians," Americans, "against the Egyptians, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom." Right, so American against American. We're going to see straight civil war, okay, on every single scale. Racial, political, economical. Okay, everything is going to be straight divided here. And as Yahushua said, that a kingdom divided cannot stand. So it says the inception of America, this was built on a divided system of the Republicans and Democrats, right? Which goes back to Rome. I believe it was I always forget, the Etruscans and the I always forget that, but it goes back to Rome, right? So since the beginning, it's been built on a divided system. So what's the outcome? Is eventually it will fall. It says, and the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to the idols and to the charmers and to them that have familiar spirits and to the wizards. Right? So the spirit of America is gonna fail. That means that whole American dream, that spirit of let's go get that bread, let's go make it, let's hustle, right, is gonna dim more and more and more to the point where majority of people, if not all, are not gonna have that spirit. They're going to realize that it's not possible at all. So they're going to lose complete hope. And once they do that, they're going to lean towards the spiritual side, but not the correct side. Right? It's going to be mainly the left-hand side. The spirits, the charmers, those that have familiar spirits. Right? So it says, and the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord of hosts. Which we believe through the spirit that cruel lord and that fierce king is DJ Trump, right? Because out of all the presidents, he's the one that has been applying that hammer, the most. So we believe, him to be that person, and Lord willing, he's the one that hastens all these prophecies and essentially accelerates this thing. Makes this kingdom fully collapse and, just catapults us into the kingdom of heaven. Because in order for the kingdom of heaven to be established, this kingdom got to go. That is 2 Ezra chapter 6 and verse 9. It says that Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So I'll leave it there. Constantly, stay on point, stay locked in, do the best you can every single day to be the best righteous person you can be. And that's all we can do. Just rinse and repeat daily, and as a broken clock, just do the same thing until Yahweh Shai comes back. So hopefully this was edifying. With that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash, and double honors to the elder bishops and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth. Shalom to your elect, shalom.